Are you in your 50s and suddenly realizing retirement isn't as far away as it used to be? Maybe it hit you after a conversation with a friend who just left their job. Or maybe it was after looking at your 401k and thinking, wait, is this really enough? Wherever you are in the process, here's the good news. You still have time. Not as much as before, sure, but enough time to make some smart, meaningful changes. You just need clarity and a little bit of direction. So today, let me walk you through 5 common mistakes people make when planning for retirement in their 50s, and more importantly, how to avoid them. If you can sidestep these, you'll already be ahead of most people, and you'll move into your 60s with confidence, not panic. Let's start with mistake number 1, not having a clear retirement number. You'd be surprised how many people are saving without knowing what they're saving for. They just keep adding to their 401k or IRA or saving some cash on the side. But when you ask, how much will you need to retire comfortably? They say, I don't know. Hopefully enough. That's like planning a road trip with no destination. You might get somewhere, but is it where you want to be? The risk here is running out of money too early or saving too little, too late. And once you're in your 60s, it's much harder to make up for lost time. I remember talking with a client named Mark. He was 53, worked in IT, and had saved around $350,000. Sounds decent, right? But when we actually ran the numbers, with his lifestyle, his debt, and the fact that he wanted to retire at 62, he was about $200,000 short. He wasn't behind because of bad choices. He just never did the math. So here's the fix. Get your number. Use a basic retirement calculator online. It doesn't need to be fancy. Plug in your age, expected retirement age, lifestyle goals, current savings, and contributions. Even a rough estimate gives you something solid to aim for. Once you know your gap, if there is one, you can adjust accordingly. Maybe save a bit more. Maybe retire a year later. Maybe downsize. But at least it's intentional, not guesswork. Let's move to mistake number 2, underestimating healthcare costs. Here's something most people don't realize. Healthcare can easily become your biggest expense in retirement, even bigger than housing. Especially if you retire before Medicare kicks in at 65. People assume they'll be healthy, that they'll just deal with it when it comes. But surprise medical costs can wipe out savings faster than you think. I once spoke with a couple, both teachers, retired at 60. They had a solid pension and around $400,000 in savings. They thought they were set. Then he needed surgery. Insurance didn't cover all of it. Then she had dental work. Then a knee replacement. Within 4 years, their emergency fund was gone. The solution? Plan now. First, make sure you understand how Medicare works. Know what it covers and what it doesn't. Second, consider a health savings account, HSA, if you're still working and eligible. It's tax-advantaged and can be used in retirement for qualified medical expenses. Third, budget realistically. Don't assume you'll never get sick. Assume you will, and be pleasantly surprised if you don't. Now on to mistake number 3, assuming you'll spend less in retirement. This one trips up a lot of people. They think, I won't have a commute. The kids are grown. The mortgage is almost done. I'll spend less. Sometimes that's true for the first few years. But then comes the travel, the hobbies, the home projects, the gifts for grandkids, medical expenses, inflation, and suddenly, they're spending almost the same or more. I had a woman named Sarah, 58, who planned for $3,000 a month in retirement expenses. It sounded reasonable, but when we went through her actual numbers, what she wanted to do with her time, it came out closer to $4,500. Her original plan would have run her out of money by 78. The fix? Build your budget based on your real lifestyle goals, not the minimalist version you think you'll stick to. List the trips, the hobbies, the support you want to give your kids or causes. And yes, factor in inflation, because what costs $3,000 now might cost $4,500 in 10 years. Okay, mistake number 4, keeping all your money in cash or going too conservative too early. I get it. In your 50s, you want to play it safe. You've worked hard to build your savings, and you don't want to lose it. But going too conservative, like putting everything into savings accounts or CDs, means your money won't keep up with inflation. It might feel safe, but over time, you're actually losing purchasing power. Let me tell you about David. He was 55 and had saved $280,000, all in a savings account earning under 1% interest. No debt, decent income. But when inflation hit hard, his real value dropped fast. By the time he realized it, the market had already bounced back, and he missed out on years of potential growth. Now, this doesn't mean throw everything into stocks, but it does mean staying balanced. A mix of growth and safety. Bonds, index funds, maybe a portion in dividend-paying stocks, depending on your risk tolerance. And if you don't know where to start, talk to a professional. Or even just use a robo-advisor to help allocate your funds. Last one for today, mistake number 5. Waiting too long to talk about retirement with your spouse or family. This one's not about money. It's about alignment. I've seen couples where one partner assumes they'll travel the world, while the other just wants to garden and stay home. Or one thinks they'll retire at 62, the other at 68. One wants to move to Florida, the other wants to stay near the grandkids. When you don't talk it through, openly and early, retirement can become a source of stress, not joy. I worked with a couple who almost postponed retirement entirely because they weren't on the same page. Once we sat down, mapped out their shared vision, and made a few compromises, they left that meeting excited instead of anxious. So if you haven't had that conversation yet, now's the time. Don't wait until your last day of work to ask, what do you want this next chapter to look like? Talk about it. Dream together, plan together, and make it something you both look forward to. And look, I know we just covered a lot. So here's a quick recap before we wrap up this first half. 5 big retirement planning mistakes people make in their 50s. Not knowing their retirement number, underestimating healthcare costs, assuming they'll spend less, going too conservative with money, and not talking openly with family or a spouse. Each one on its own might not sink the ship, but combined, they can quietly derail a retirement you've worked decades for. But, and this is the key, they're all avoidable. We'll continue in the next part with 5 more mistakes, just as common, just as fixable, plus a few simple strategies that could save you years of stress and thousands of dollars. Let's keep the momentum going. So now that we've covered the first 5 mistakes people often make in their 50s when planning for retirement, let's keep going. Because the truth is, there's more to this picture. The next 5 aren't always as obvious, but they can be just as costly, emotionally and financially. And just like before, we'll look at each one in detail, with real examples and practical steps you can take right now. Mistake number 6, not having a tax strategy for retirement. Most people think about how much money they've saved, but they forget to think about how much they'll actually keep after taxes. Here's something important to remember. Not all retirement dollars are created equal. If your savings are mostly in tax-deferred accounts like a traditional 401k or IRA, every dollar you withdraw in retirement is taxable income. That can really add up, especially if you're also receiving Social Security and maybe a pension. And if you're not careful, you could end up paying more in taxes than necessary. I remember working with a man named George. He had done a great job saving, nearly $700,000 in his 401k, but he hadn't thought through withdrawals. He took out a big chunk in one year to help his daughter buy a house, and it bumped him into a higher tax bracket. That withdrawal cost him over $9,000 more in taxes than he expected. So how do you avoid this? Start thinking about tax diversification. If you still have time, consider contributing to a Roth IRA or even doing small Roth conversions now, while your income might be lower than it will be later. That way, in retirement, you'll have a mix of taxable and tax-free accounts, giving you more flexibility and control. Mistake number 7, ignoring inflation. It might not seem like a big deal now. What's a few extra dollars here and there, right? But over 20 or 30 years, even moderate inflation can dramatically reduce the buying power of your money. Let's say you plan to retire on $4,000 a month. If inflation averages 3% per year, and that's not a high estimate, in 20 years, you'd need around $7,200 per month just to maintain the same lifestyle. A lot of people don't factor that in. They look at their current expenses, assume they'll stay flat, and build a plan around that. But the world changes. Prices go up. Think about how much gas, groceries, or even insurance cost 20 years ago. Now imagine the next 20. What's the fix? Start by building inflation into your retirement projections. If your expected expenses are $50,000 a year today, plan as if you'll need $65,000 or more in 10 to 15 years. That might sound discouraging, but being realistic now can save you from serious stress later. And again, It's another reason why staying at least partially invested in assets that tend to outpace inflation, like stocks, is important, especially early in retirement. Now on to mistake number 8, not having a withdrawal plan. Saving is one thing, spending wisely is another. A lot of people think they'll just take money out when they need it. But without a strategy, they risk taking too much too early or withdrawing from the wrong accounts at the wrong time. This is where something like the 4% rule can be helpful as a starting point, meaning you withdraw around 4% of your savings each year to make your money last. But even that has limitations. It doesn't account for market dips, changes in expenses, or healthcare surprises. Take Linda and Mike. They retired at 62 with about $600,000 saved. For the first 2 years, they withdrew more than they needed because they felt comfortable. Then the market dropped, and they panicked, cutting expenses dramatically and stressing every month. If they'd had a clearer withdrawal strategy, like setting up a bucket system with short-term cash, medium-term bonds, and long-term growth, they could have avoided that roller coaster. The takeaway? Think ahead. Decide where your income will come from: Social Security, pensions, investments, part-time work, and in what order. And if you're not sure, speak with a retirement advisor. Even one consultation can give you clarity and peace of mind. Mistake number 9, not preparing emotionally for retirement. This one's often overlooked, but it's huge. Retirement isn't just a financial shift. It's an identity shift. For decades, your job likely gave you structure, purpose, community, and suddenly, that's gone. Some people embrace the freedom. Others feel lost. I had a client named Teresa. She was a nurse for 35 years. Retired at 60 with solid savings. No financial problems. But after 6 months, she told me, "I don't know who I am anymore." She missed the sense of being needed, of contributing. The solution? Plan for the non-financial side of retirement, too. What will you do each day? Who will you spend time with? What will give your life meaning? It could be volunteering, mentoring, starting a small business, traveling, taking care of grandkids. Just make sure it's intentional. Retirement isn't the end of your productive life. It's the beginning of a new phase, one that you get to shape. And finally, mistake number 10, thinking it's too late to change. This one breaks my heart the most. People in their 50s or even early 60s come to me and say, "I wish I had started earlier. But now what's the point?" The point is, it's never too late to improve your future. Yes, you might not be able to retire at 60 on a private island, but you can make your later years more secure, more fulfilling, and less stressful. I've seen people go from nearly nothing at 55 to a solid, simple retirement by 67, just by making consistent changes, spending less, saving more, downsizing, working a few extra years. It's not flashy, but it works. Don't let guilt or fear stop you from moving forward. Because the best time to start was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. So, we've now covered 10 of the most common retirement planning mistakes for people in their 50s. Let's take a breath and pull this all together. If you're feeling behind, you're not alone. If you've made some of these mistakes, join the club. The truth is, most people aren't given the tools, the education, or the support to plan well. But now you have knowledge, and knowledge gives you options. You don't need to do everything at once. Just pick one thing this week. Maybe it's calculating your retirement number. Maybe it's opening a Roth IRA. Maybe it's having that honest talk with your spouse. Maybe it's looking up how Medicare actually works. One step at a time. That's how real change happens. And hey, if this video helped you feel a little more informed, a little more confident, would you mind doing something simple? Just hit the like button. It lets me know this kind of content matters to you. And if you want more videos like this on planning, saving, or just navigating this new chapter of life, go ahead and subscribe. I'd also really love to hear from you. What questions are still on your mind? What's your biggest concern right now when it comes to retirement? Leave a comment below, and if you feel comfortable, share a bit of your own journey. It might help someone else who's in the same place. Thanks for spending this time with me. And remember, retirement isn't the end. It's your next beginning. Let's make it one you feel proud of.